I think we're actually live. There we are. Hello, my dear.
Hello, darling friend. How are you?
Ah, I am one exhausted man.
Yeah. Busy year?
No, not an easy year so
No, I
far.
said busy year.
Busy year? Yeah, you could say that. It's not been an easy, busy, or whatever it is. Um, yeah, I am on vacation and kind of not by choice, but kind of by choice. Um, yeah, the powers that be told me I needed a break. So they put me on vacation for a couple of weeks and told me to get some rest and do some fun things and then get back to work. So there you go.
There you go. The boss has spoken.
Yeah, the bosses have spoken. But yeah. Anyway, how are you?
I am well. I've got a small cold at the moment, but apart from that, this year's been a cracker so far.
A smoke hold?
Oh, all right. I'll speak a bit slower because my accent is a bit thick. I have a small cold, but apart from that, I'm doing well. It's been a busy year so far.
Yeah. So how are things down under?
Down under, well, the weather's crap at the moment. But, things are busy. There's films being made all over the place. I'm constantly meeting more and more creatives that I can work with. And it's my first year away from hospitality.
Ooh, how's that going so far?
Um, yeah, look, I miss the money a little bit,
Yeah,
but I don't miss the job at all.
I understand. I truly understand.
Yeah.
Um, if for those people listening that have not worked in hospitality, you at least need to do it once in your life, and then you will understand that it is anything but stress free.
Yes.
So, and I'm being polite on that subject. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, definitely a job you need to be switched on for kind of all the time.
yeah, you need to be on your game all the time when you're doing hospitality because there's no time for you not to be, and then when you're not being and you don't feel it in that particular day, it kind of shows in your work.
Yep. Yep. So
So
yes,
this is
2026 for me is uh having a crack at full-time creative pursuit. And we'll see how I go.
let's see, how many years did you took Inspire at one time?
I think I have a feeling it was like 2020, maybe.
Yeah, I got up the other day and I was thinking about where I've been, where I'm going, where all the crap that life has thrown at me, and I'm like, God, 2020 was an interesting year, and it has been interesting ever since then. Um, people don't realize that when you grow up with abuse and neglect and just a bad childhood altogether, it makes the elder years tougher because you want that relationship, you want those um, vacations where you can just be carefree and, but having those relationships when you get as you get older is tough,
Yeah.
and and I think that's been one of the things this year that has really kinda stuck with me is, I'm kind of in that place in my life where I'm kinda looking for a relationship, but kind of afraid of a relationship, and if you don't know exactly what type of relationship you're looking for, everything seems to be as it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Well, that's it. I've just spent the last 6 years completely and utterly single, not dating, not nothing, just so that I could work on my relationship with myself in the hopes that the better I can get that, the easier it'll be for me to recognize a, good potential partner when I meet them. And yeah, look, I've made terrible choices over the years. Terrible choices. Choices that this me doesn't even understand how I made them. But anyway,
yeah.
but
I look at this year began as a repeat, and I've noticed that every day this year, it has been a repeat of a past event in my life that I've either failed to learn the task that was meant to be learned, or I meant to do something different. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
So I sit there and when I'm meditating and I'm like, why am I here at this particular moment in time? When I've already completed this moment in time previously in my life. But as the powers that be enlighten me on a daily basis, there was something that I failed to learn. And I think I got it, but then something else pops up and it's like, well, scrap that, let's move back, try to figure that out. So that's the lesson of the year is when you repeat a moment in time that you were meant to learn something, whether you learned it or not, if you didn't complete the task, it's going to keep pushing you back to that point until you actually learn it.
Yep. Well, one of the things that I've learnt is that sometimes what happens, so I've had a whole bunch of my own moments where I'm like, oh, geez, I just learnt a new thing or had a new realization or doody doody do. And then 3 days later, I'll come across an old piece of writing I did that I read and I go, oh, shit, no, I worked that out 3 years ago and then forgot somewhere along the line, right? So, but I think when the lessons repeat, I think what we do is learn them at a slightly deeper level and with a slightly new understanding every time it comes around until we hit that point where whatever the lesson is truly locks in. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. You almost feel like you keep asking yourself the question, why am I here? Why have I repeated this particular cycle again? And so you didn't learn it the first time. You probably are not going to learn it the second time because you're trying to figure out what it was you were supposed to learn in the first place. So it's going to take you a third time when you're seeing the outcome of the first two times. And then all of a sudden it's going to smack you in the face and wake you up and like, oh, well, shit, there it is. Um, yeah.
Yep. Or sometimes the thing smacks you in the face 10 or 12 times before you finally go, "Geez, what am I missing here?"
Yeah, exactly. What you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning, I'm like, "What am I missing?" Or you stand with your peers at work, or when you're out and about, and it's like you're with friends, and you're like, "Okay, so what something is going on that I missed."
Yeah,
And then you gotta sit there and think about it for a while, and it may not even hit you for months, but eventually it will, because you're gonna keep repeating certain cycles until you figure out what it was, you were supposed to learn, and two, you were supposed to do things different.
yes.
So I've tried to do this lesson twice now, two different ways. Both times have failed.
Well,
And
have they failed or have they simply been a learning experience rather than the outcome you wanted?
a little bit of both, because it's like I don't know what the outcome it is I wanted in the first place.
Maybe
Number
that's why it's not quite landing.
That's possibly. It's not it's that's that lesson that you need to stop expecting certain things to happen a certain way and just let it ride.
Yep, yep.
You
Well,
know,
that's it. Sometimes it is important to not be attached to the outcome. Like, to be
yes.
clear with ourselves and the universe about the outcome we would like, but not be attached to it, because we got to remember, universe, powers that be, God, however you want to refer to powers outside of ourselves, um, because sometimes they've got information we don't have,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes the universe has got information we don't have. And so there is going to be a slightly different outcome to what we expected. But just because it's different to what we wanted doesn't mean the new outcome's actually not better in some way, whether that's just to teach us the next thing,
Or it's maybe that you were never supposed to experience what you experienced in the first place.
right?
You
So
know,
then what do we do with that? Well, then we use that experience, we share it with others, and then, maybe other people can learn some of that with us themselves. Some people relate to, what it is we're struggling with. And then
I've
it becomes a good purpose thing.
yeah, but then again, you ask yourself, why do you keep going through this cycle if you weren't meant to go through this cycle in the first place?
Yes.
What do you then there again, you ask yourself the question, what am I missing? You know, if you were meant to do this,
Well,
whatever it is,
maybe okay, so maybe it's about changing the question,
that's
right?
okay.
So maybe instead of asking ourselves, "What am I missing?" Maybe a better question would be something along the lines of, "Universe, what is it I need to be paying attention to here?"
Mhm. Formulating the question in a different format.
Yeah, with a slightly more positive kind of outline in terms of, "Okay, what is it I need to be paying attention to?" rather than, "What am I missing?"
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
capable versus incapable kind of dialogue.
Because there's obviously something there that keeps you there, but for what reason?
Age-old question, and hindsight's wonderful, isn't it?
Yes. And it's the nerve-wracking part of it all is we as human beings repeat cycles in our lives for a specific reason.
Mm.
You know, me, I was an I was an abused child, but as I got older, my relationships were also abusive as an adult. So you stand there and you think about the two, how they are basically married together for what reason? What
Yeah.
reason? As a child, we had no control over how we were treated. But as an adult, we were in full control.
Yes. But we've got to those of us that grew up not knowing we had that power,
Mhm.
right? You've then gotta, as an adult, learn that you have that power and that choice. And that can be the most difficult lesson to learn,
Yes.
is to understand how much power and choice we've got in situations as an adult. And a lot of what we tend to do if we're not paying attention is simply sink into conditioned behaviors, conditioned responses. The way, we step into adulthood trained, with the training that our childhood gave us. And if that training was a little, effed up, uh, then, then it makes adulthood hard.
Yeah. It makes it well, it makes it a lot harder because then you don't know how to handle certain situations, or your your mind is trained to handle certain situations like you were a child.
Yeah. That's it.
When
Personally, as a kid, I learnt how to devalue myself.
yes.
So that has been a lifelong mission to undo that conditioning.
Well, yeah. Same with me. I don't know. There are days when I get up and I feel so empowered that nothing can stop me. But
Mhm.
then there are days I get up and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Why are you putting yourself through this torturement of doing things that you know are unhealthy for you?"
Yep.
You psych yourself out because you're expecting it to have a certain outcome. And when it doesn't have that outcome, you get upset.
Yep.
And then you start thinking, well, I coulda, shoulda, woulda, did this.
Yeah.
Or
Coulda,
or
shoulda, woulda, oops, didn't.
yes, you sit there and you second guess everything that you do when you don't have to.
Yep.
When if you just do the things that are natural for you, everything works out.
That's it. When we take action that comes from our heart center rather than our head center, you know?
Mhm. Yeah,
Anything we do that is really comes from the heart and really comes from soul instinct, I think that we just have to learn how to trust that. And the more we start to be brave enough to try those experiences and they actually do turn out really well, then, gradually we start to learn that life can be different.
yeah.
We can feel
Life
different about ourselves depending on how we behave and what we let ourselves think.
That's the definition of chaos. You know, when and I said this to a coworker the other day. I said, "Why do you do the same things every day?" And then you get mad when there's not a different outcome every day.
Well,
And
that's
he
definition of
just looked
insanity, isn't it?
at me. He didn't know how to respond. But it's the truth. You know, we get up every day. Some of us go to the gym, some of us go to the coffee shop, some of us go to work, but our routines are the same. The functions that we perform every day are the same. And we get upset when the outcome to those routines is the same, but we expect it to be different.
Yeah, well, look, I gotta be honest, I'm not much for routines. Routines tend to bore the absolute crap out of me. Too much rigidity and too much routine, makes me feel like I'm dead anyway. Because I just get bored, and I'm like, "Mom, sorry, I I can't help but feel like I'm meant to do more with my life than
Yeah,
this 9 to 5, tear my hair out freaking job." Or relationships you know? That's
but
it,
no
I don't
matter
wanna
the
feel like I wasted my life, you know?
well, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Um, but at the same time, are you in a routine without knowing you're in a routine?
I like to call my routine fluid and flexible.
Okay. So what does a fluid and flexible look to you every day?
It means that I don't get up at the same time every single day. I don't go to bed at the same time every single day. I think the most routine thing in my day is that I always start it with a coffee.
Mm, so
That's
there is
like
a
one
routine.
of the most routine parts of my day.
Yeah. So there is a routine in your life,
It's just
but
barely minimal.
yeah. I'm the same as I get up and I either do a tea or I do a coffee. Sometimes I'll do smoothie, but um, that part is not really the same every day. But you get up, you go to work, you come home, you eat, you tend to things at home, you pay bills, and those things are the routine parts of your life. You know
Yeah, sometimes I think they're the mundane parts of of our life, right?
that's very true. Um, but they are the most consistent parts of your life. Getting up, going to work, coming home, eating, showering, paying bills, taking care of the household chores. Those things are the same every day or every week, no matter how long you do them for.
Yeah.
So once in a while you got to change it up. You got to you know
Oh yeah, you gotta mix it up, baby.
you know
We gotta add some fun. We gotta add some excitement. We gotta, be spending joyful time with ourselves and with the world.
but if you,
As
I
as
don't know.
people who have the challenge of depression, like, it's really, really important. It's really, really
Mhm.
important that we don't let ourselves get too stuck in the drudgery, and we remember that life is for living.
I cannot watch the news anymore. I haven't watched the news in months. I think I watched it a handful of times last year, but it's so freaking depressing to turn on the news and we're bombing this person and killing that person. And, you know, everybody tells me, just watch his speech. I don't want to watch Trump's speeches because he's such a boring individual that half the time you really don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah. And I just had this conversation with someone the other day because I was in a car with 3 other friends and they were all talking about a subject, and then they looked at me for an opinion. I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry." And they're like, "What? How do you not know?" I'm like, "'Cause I haven't watched the news in about 5 years, mate." I stopped during COVID, I'll be honest. Like, during COVID, I was like, because every day it was the same, it was kind of the same. It was just death toll, death toll, death toll, death toll. And I was like, I can't. Right. I'm trying to focus on getting a good life going for myself. And this is not helping.
No.
So look, the pitfall is that occasionally I find myself sitting there looking and feeling really ignorant because I don't know what's going on in the world. And I know that it's important to not be completely unaware of what's going on in the world. But for where I'm at in my life right now, I also can't spend too much time thinking or worrying about the stuff that I don't have a lot of control over, because I'm still trying to get a handle on the things I do have control over, thanks.
Yep. I
And I
understand
don't
that.
need distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, there was a couple of weeks in January that I was so psyched out over stupid shit that, when I finally snapped out of it, I was like, what the hell was that? Um, but and I really made some stupid decisions. But
Okay.
that, I looked at them, I'm like, okay, so deal with it. So I dealt with it. And, you know, I guess the one thing that, I'm still kind of mad at myself for is I'm still here in Arizona when I don't want to be,
Mm.
because I don't feel this state is good for the soul. There is so much, it's a medical state. Everybody comes here for medical reasons.
Okay.
And not that that's good for them, and that's how they feel. But for somebody like me that's looking for some um, mental power of the universe, this is not a good place
The
because
desert's not working for you?
no, the desert is definitely not working for me. Um, Half the time I don't know what season it is outside because it's like it never changes. But and I think that's people think, well, I'm not really a winter fan, I'm not really a spring. I love the springtime. Yes, it's getting warm here and it's 86 degrees outside today, and it's nice leisurely day, and it's not hot, but it's not cool either. But at the same time, um, I love a good rainfall,
Yep.
and we don't get a lot of rain here.
Oh, you gotta come to Melbourne, Will. We get plenty of rain here, mate.
You know, and I think that's truly been, people don't realize that how you surround yourself with those types of things is how you feel. You know, for those of for people that are stuck in the uh, winter all the time and no sunlight and no this and no that, I'm like, that tends to wear on people. So get outside, get your vitamin D, soak up the sun, because that's truly what, it's going to help you snap out of whatever funk you're in.
Yep. Oh, that's it. Every winter here now, every winter they put me on vitamin D tablets.
Yeah.
Every winter I got to take vitamin D tablets because we just don't get enough sun.
Yeah.
And it just creates so much food for the depression.
Hmm.
And yeah, the whole aim is to not feed it, is to
Yeah.
is to have as little going on in my life that's going to feed the depression. And I'm not trying, I have been working at really focused bringing in the things that create the joy. Yeah, I'm trying to feed the joy, not feed the depression. And that takes some conscious effort, which can be difficult to do when the chemicals and the pre-training and the unhealthy conditioning and the limiting beliefs are all trying to make us feel like we're bloody nuts, right?
Or you're surrounded on a daily basis with people that are just not good for you.
Oh, yeah, that's no fun. You gotta get out of that. You gotta get
Yeah.
away from that. Yeah,
And
that's it.
that's truly, I think a lot of it is, we put ourselves in places and situations that are not healthy for you, and you allow the negative talk from the people around you to really affect you
Yeah,
when you're trying so hard, and it's like a constant battle within yourself of the good versus the evil. And one day you just sit there and I'm like, okay, enough. Decide what you're going to do.
that's it. It's up to you.
Yep. um I, I've been in situations where I've just put my hands up in the air and walk away. And
Yep.
sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, but you look at it as nothing is worth your mental health.
Absolutely not.
Not a
Absolutely not.
job,
No
not a
job, no
relationship,
job. Sorry, you go.
not a job, not a relationship, not a situation. I mean, it's just not worth it. It's
Yep.
not worth letting yourself get to the point where you're ready to say fuck it and go.
Well, I think that our tendency to not do that comes from that place we were talking about earlier of the pre-trained devaluing, right? We stay
Yep.
in situations that are not working for us or that are not healthy for us or that are making it harder for us to do what we need to do for ourselves. And one of the reasons we stay is because we prioritize the other people's needs in the
Mhm.
situation or in the relationship. And largely that's because we got taught somewhere along the line that everybody else is more important than us. So everybody else has to come first, and everything else that everybody else wants has to come first.
Mm. Yep.
And that's how we learn to not look after ourselves and not practice good self-care and not make choices and decisions based on what's going to bring us some happiness rather than what's going to fulfill someone's expectations.
Right. You get to a point where it's like, I don't really care what you think. I'm going to take the time off and regroup. And if I come back, great. If I don't, okay, great too.
Yep.
Um, when you spend so much energy giving to an organization or to an employer or to a relationship or to just anything but yourself, you're just tearing apart the best parts of you.
Yep. We just make it harder on ourselves to be the best version of ourselves.
Right.
and then we get shitty that we can't be the best version of ourselves.
Right. Because we know it's not us.
Right.
We know that that's not who we are, but yet we've allowed it to be who we are.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the tough part. You know, you and I've spent a lot of time on ourselves over the past years with all of our groups and with Colin and with everything else that we've been doing. And you know, and you look at it from the 30,000-foot angle, and it's like the one thing that he taught us that made more sense than anything else was to prioritize yourself before anything or anybody else.
Yep. Well, look, I'll be honest, before I met you and before I met Colin, in theory, I understood that I had to put myself first.
Right.
What I didn't have were the tools. What I didn't have was the backup, which the community kind of gave me. And the reassurance that what I was doing was okay,
Yeah.
that putting myself first was okay. Because that's it. I knew I needed to be putting myself right. I've been aware of the fill your cup up before you know, the, put your own face mask on before anyone else, right? I knew all of those things theoretically. I'd heard them for years. What I didn't know was how to put any of them into practice for myself.
Yep.
And so that's what a lot of the last kind of few years has been about for me is learning, gathering tools
Yes.
and practicing how to use them.
Oh, my dear. You know, you look at it and it's like, so it took us a month to get on this podcast, you know, because of your schedule, my schedule. And then when we finally did it, we were so exhausted that we couldn't do it. And it's like
Yeah.
craziness. But, you know, truly, this is what the conversations that people need to have was, what are you giving yourself versus what are you giving your employer? Or what are
Yep.
you giving the other relationships in your life?
Yeah.
Are you taking care of you before you take care of anything else?
That's it.
You
Well,
know,
by learning how to take care of myself, I was able to step into my actual career of choice
right,
with more fervor. I I managed to publish my book and that's it. I published my first book, but the aim of the book was to help other people. But I needed to
right.
take that time out for myself, right? The original making of the book
Mhm.
was for me because I'd been talking about it for 30 years and wasn't really doing it. So the doing was for me. The
Right.
result is for other people. So, and that's where I think that kind of that us versus right and other people, that's where the combination comes in. We get to serve both purposes.
So I'm a workaholic. I love to work, but is that healthy?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it depends on what the work is.
And I think that that was the lesson
Yep.
is you don't need to work 7 days a week at any job, whether you like it or not. And I love my job.
But you also need a life, love.
Well, and that's it. You just said it. You just said it because, you know, I was sitting there literally at work, and I'm like, I have been in this kitchen 36 days in a row. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Why are you in the same building, four walls, 36 days in a row when you've been given ample time to take time off? It's encouraged to take time off, but yet you are so fucking stubborn that you don't take time off.
Yes. Dare I
Right.
say, it almost sounds like a little bit of avoidance going on there, Will.
Yes.
What is it you're avoiding by staying at work all day, every day for 36 days?
Well, that's a good question. What am I avoiding? That's a great question. And so now now it's time. Wow. Okay. So it's amazing how a powerful conversation can really turn it around 360 degrees when you weren't hearing what the question was. Why are you doing this? It's not about doing something you love versus doing something you hate. It's about doing something that you love, but also doing things that you personally love to do, because you can't do it all at work. You got to find something else outside of the work that gives you fulfillment.
Yeah. Well, I think people like us definitely do.
Yes.
You know, look, there are plenty of people out there who are happy with the simple, with a simple routine life that's fulfilling for them,
Right.
right? That's fulfilling for them. And then there are people like us, not so fulfilling for us. So we got to work out what else we need to feel fulfilled. So for
Because it's
me, yeah, go.
no, go ahead. For you?
So for me, when I'm not doing anything creative, when I'm not being my full creative self, it doesn't matter how good my life might seem or appear. I can tell you I was somewhat miserable
Mm, yeah,
because I'm not doing what my heart knows it needs to do.
exactly. And
So
that's
and that's it. So it means that, yeah, look, I love my job and do, but it's not fulfilling me, and it's
mhm,
not leaving me feeling satisfied with my choices.
mhm.
And then that
Yep,
brings in the internal dialogue about guilt, not being good enough, and being useless, and and all those negative things we heard growing up
yep,
all come flooding back. And then all
yep,
of a sudden, we're a messy grown ass adult again. It's like,
yep, yep.
here we are again. God
Here
damn it,
we are again.
happiness thing out.
And maybe that's, you know, 10, 15 years ago, everybody was a workaholic. We
Yeah,
needed to. And I think that's one thing that we all took away from COVID is we didn't need to be.
right.
You know,
Agreed.
I can honestly sit here and, I've been on vacation since last Thursday and I'm bored out of my freaking mind. Because I'm like, okay, what are you going to do today? Well, you're not going to go to work. So what is it? And you can only clean your room so much and you can only wash the car so many times. Okay, let's go for a hike. Okay. And it's about rediscovering the things that make it worth
Yep.
living for,
Yep.
and just going through those day-to-day things. And yeah, you're working 5 days a week, 40, 45, 50 hours a week, and you get 2 days off a week. And what it is that you're going to make those 2 days off worth looking forward to every week.
Yep.
you know
Yep. But it's hard.
because
Like sometimes all you want to do on those 2 days off is nothing. I just want to
exactly.
rest and I just got to recoup from from the 5 days I've just had in order to have what I need to do the first 5 days of next week.
Right. But then you feel bad because you did nothing.
Right.
So it was like, damn, what the hell is going on?
Vicious cycle, mate. Vicious cycle.
It is. It is truly a vicious cycle, because in your heart that you want to do all these things, and you want to get out and serve your community and serve yourself and take care of it. And but at the same time, there are times when you just want to lay in front of the television and drink a bottle of wine or a six-pack of beer and forget the world exists and move on.
Yep. And slowly what I've learned is that, look, some days it is perfectly okay to do that.
Yep.
And a lot of those moments for me personally where I kind of get into that internal shouldn't conversation, I now challenge myself. The moment I hear myself think or say should, I go, okay, should according to who? Who's making the rules here, honey?
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself that, hello, I make the rules. I get to say what I do today and have that be okay. Right?
Yeah.
If I choose to do nothing today except binge Netflix and drink a couple of beers, then that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
And that's okay. I give myself permission to do that.
Right.
All right. But I must admit, learning how to give myself permission was a key lesson. Because permission tends, like my brain kept clicking to permission as being something that has to be given by somebody else.
Yes.
Right? Somebody else has to give me permission.
Yes, it's okay to take a day off.
It's okay.
Yes.
Right? So what I've learned is, no, they fucking don't. No one makes that. It's only me. I make the rules. As long as I'm okay with it. Anyone who doesn't is not, well, that's your business, not mine. Not my monkeys, not my circus.
That's it. And when you stop seeking approval from outside, life gets a little easier.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does.
And I think that was the lesson. Both times I was a workaholic. I gave everything to the job. And both times it bit me in the ass.
Well, it left you very little room for yourself, Will.
Because I allowed that.
Yeah, you did. Your choice.
And I think that was definitely the lesson. Because as we're talking, it's like light bulbs are going off in my head, and it's like, duh, you dumbass. Why are you keep repeating this cycle because you don't have to be a fucking workaholic.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Sorry.
The only people that you're trying to please is yourself. And if people can't handle the fact that you have a work-life balance, then to hell with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the third time comes around of the same situation, you're going to look at it like, oh, okay.
I know what's going on here.
I'm going to, tell your boss, "You're taking your days off, don't bother me."
Yep.
It's all of a sudden making sense, and that's where we as a human race forget, is we go through these mundane times in our life where, it's a repeating of the hamster wheel cycle, and yet we wanna know why it's not changing,
Yeah.
because we're expecting it to change when it's not going to change because it's the same cycle all the time until we physically decide to change it.
Yep.
Well, how about that?
There we go.
Okay.
Life's lessons according to T and Will.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Tina, you you're in Melbourne, Australia, correct?
Correct.
What time is it there?
Currently, it is 9:49 AM.
Well, lucky you.
Yes,
It is it
that's it.
is
My day is starting when yours is ending, my darling.
exactly. And 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 I think that's what we need to realize with everybody else around us is, you know, the days are one day is ending, another day is beginning. And you look at that as a whole nother day to reinvent yourself to be the best version of yourself and not repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Absolutely.
There you
Absolutely.
have it. Thank you, my dear Tina.
Thank you for having me, Will. This has been an absolute pleasure. And as
Yeah.
far as how long it took us to line it up, I am a big believer in, dude, it all happens when it's supposed to. And today was the right day for us to
Yes, it
have
was.
the conversation that we
Yes,
needed to have.
absolutely. Thank you, my dear.
You are most welcome. I love
You
you
have
lots,
yourself a
buddy.
great day, and we'll talk soon.
We will. All right.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye, my darling. Mwah.
Well, folks, there you have it. Sometimes it takes having a simple conversation with somebody that you know going through the same things, and it opens up a world of, wow, you didn't think of that because I just thought of that. So, you guys have yourself a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon.